Hello, hello, lovelies. I am back with some more cosplay content. I have spared you the messy details of a repeat blouse that I have put on Lady Jane. As you can see, I remade the same blouse pattern that I showed you in a video, I don't even remember how long ago, depending on when this one goes up. The purple blouse, I'll link it, and it'll be down below. And I may end up doing a cosplay playlist, but we'll see. Anyway, so I made that blouse again. I changed up a couple things. So what I ended up doing is I used a thinner elastic. This is a 1/4 inch elastic for both the sleeves and the neckline. And I made a bigger hem and put like a hem with a channel. Put the elastic in there and then got this nice little ruffle for both the hemline and the sleeves. I also made the elastic on the sleeves a little bit smaller, so this fits a little bit tighter, which is perfect because then I can push the sleeves up and get a really nice poof, which I can also get because this material is a little bit stiffer than the purple one was. And oh yes, this fabric came from where most of my fabric comes from. It came from my mother-in-law. And I only had enough to do the front and the sleeves. So for the back, I went to the fabric store and I tested a whole bunch of plain white cottons. This is the closest. I don't think it's going to come up on camera. This is the closest I could find, and it's, yeah, you can kind of see it. It's a little bit different. The weave isn't quite as tight. It's a little softer. It's a little bit thinner. But I think that's going to turn out really, really nice because it's the whole back panel, which is going to be covered up with a vest. Well, a big chunk of it's going to be covered up with a vest, and it's going to be tucked into something at the bottom. So I don't think it's going to be terribly obvious that it's different. But I also I put this panel at the back, and I think it's going to be awesome because I plan on, like, this is a gorgeous shirt and I can wear this just as is, but in terms of the whole costume when it all comes together with all the different pieces layered, if I want to wear this to a convention or whatever, having that light fabric at the back I think is going to really help to like air things out so it doesn't get too hot. Fingers crossed. That's what I'm hoping. And then I just left, just like the purple one, I just left it nice and loose. And this one I had to hem. I just did a little rolled hem there. Machine sewn. I had to hem the edge. But yeah, it turned out very, very nice. I'm very happy with that one. Rather excited about this. And yeah. So now what I'm doing is working on another one. This one is going to be different. It's considerably longer because this is going to end up being like a shift or a chemise or a nightgown, that kind of style. And the sleeves, you can see the marking here on this one. So this is where the sleeve originally was, and then I added like 2 ruler lengths, that ruler. So like 6 inches extra, because I not only want the sleeves to be longer. So on this one, I want the sleeves to be longer so they hit like elbow, but I also want them to have, I want the ruffle to be longer as well. I want it to be more ruffly. And it doesn't have to be as poofy. So that's the plan. So I've got the pieces all cut out. There's the sleeves, and that's one of the panels. And then this is the other panel. So those are the 4 pieces all cut out. And I've got the sleeves attached. And I'm just going to do the same thing that I did in my last blouse tutorial. I'm just going to sew the sleeves together on both sides, and then I'll get to the side seams, and that's going to be a little bit different because this is going to fit more like a dress. And I'm not quite sure how that's going to work out. I think I'm going to have to add some more panels because I want it to be a little bit flowier. It's going to be underneath a skirt. Oh, and I'm just using, so before it was just like a plain, I don't really know my fabric. This is just a plain white cotton. I don't know if it was a specific kind of cotton. Now that I feel it compared to the other one, I'm thinking this might have been like a broadcloth. It does feel a little bit stiffer. I think that's what it might have actually been. This, on the other hand, is, I think, a muslin. It's a little bit different in that it's like, it looks like it's undyed cotton. I don't know though. It's not quite as white as the other one. And now I'm rambling just to avoid sewing. Because that part is boring. But sewing I shall do. Hello, hello. Welcome to day whenever this is. I can't remember when I last popped in. I am still working on Hobbit costume. I'm kind of working on 2 simultaneously. So, I know I showed you the blouse, which I put, I don't remember where, but it's around here somewhere. Anyway, so the blouse is for one variation, and then what I'm working on right now is a shift for variation number 2. And I haven't really taken you along on the process because I don't really know what I'm doing, and this is not meant to be a tutorial. I'm just basically using this video as an excuse to keep going because I'm, recording it, putting it out there. It's giving me something to do since I don't have a convention to wear this to. So, what I'm doing right now, this is the shift that I've been working on, and or chemise or nightgown or underdress or whatever you want to call it. I made a little whoopsie when I was so basically I took the pattern from the blouse and just lengthened it. So the sleeves, the neckline, everything is the same, the width. I just lengthened it to turn it from a blouse to a dress. Simple enough. But I measured where the neckline was right down to the floor and then cut that out. So it's longer than it needs, or it was longer than it needed to be. Because being for a Hobbit, it doesn't need to go right down to the floor, since Hobbit dresses don't go that long. They're like mid-calf length-ish. Because, Hobbits are farmers and rustic folk, and, they need their ankles and their feet free for doing stuff in the outdoors and stuff. So, what I've done is probably causing myself more headaches and more work than I need to. But given the circumstances, I think it's pretty ingenious, and that's why I'm sharing it. Okay, so what I'm doing right now is sewing on the ruffle that'll be at the bottom. So what I did is I measured 8 inches, because I wanted to make sure I had enough for hemming and seaming and all that stuff, and still be able to have a decent ruffle. So I measured 8 inches. Cut off an 8-inch strip off the bottom of the shift. And this is before I sewed the side seam. So once I cut that off, I had a nice long panel That was the length of like the circumference of the shift, and 8 inches wide. Then I measured another 8 inches and cut another strip off the bottom. So now I had 2 8-inch wide circumference length strips of fabric. Sewed those two together and did like a little rolled hem and everything so it won't fray. And then I hemmed the whole length of, well, just about. Anyway, basically hemmed the length of that strip. And now I am going to sew that strip back on to the bottom of the dress. And I've already done half. You see that there? And this is, I just used, there we go, like a thicker, I don't know what that is, an embroidery thread or something. Just ran that through the top in a simple running stitch, just so I could gather it together, and when everything is sewn, that'll come out. Oh, and to make sure that the length is going to be good, I also took an extra 2 inches off the bottom before sewing the ruffle back on. So the dress will now be 18 inches shorter than it was, which I think will be correct. We'll find out together. So I folded the ruffle in half. There's half. There's the ends. And then I found the other half with the seam and tacked that in place. And now I just have to figure out how to, just get the ruffles to lay nicely within this section from where I finished sewing the first half to the halfway mark, or the quarter-way mark, and then from there to the end. There's no rhyme or reason. I'm just making all the ruffles fit, but they don't have to be precise. At least I'm not making them precise. I hope it'll look good in the end. We'll find out. Da, 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 da. She's done. Fully and completely done. I had to take a minute there because, okay, I'll get to that in a second. So, as you can see, this is the shift, chemise, nightdress, whatever the hell you want to call it, that I was working on like seconds ago because the magic of editing. In real time, it's been a couple days, or maybe about a week. I don't even know anymore. What is time? Anyway, so this lovely lady, as gorgeous as this garment is now, and as much as I love it now, there were a tense couple of hours where this gorgeous, can you see this ruffle? Can we just marvel at this ruffle? Okay, that's enough. I sewed that on the wrong way. Yeah. Word to the wise kids, always make sure that you've got your stuff pinned properly before you sew it. And invest in a seam ripper or two. What I ended up doing is I sewed the ruffle to the wrong side, so when it flipped down, it was inside out. Yeah, so, and of course I sewed the whole thing before checking. So I had to rip the seam out and start again. It was not fun. But it happens to the best of us. So I'm sharing that because if you come across a hiccup, if something doesn't go right, if you have to rip a seam, just know you're in good company. It happens to the best of us. And I am not the best at costuming. I am like amateur status. So I think I talked about everything else. The sleeves, as I mentioned before, see, I can't remember because it's been days as opposed to, seconds, but anyway. So here's what I was talking about earlier with a bigger ruffle on the sleeve, and the sleeve itself is longer than the blouse sleeve. So this one hits me right at about the elbow. A little bit above the elbow though, because if you have elastic right on the elbow, that's pretty uncomfortable. So this hits me just a little bit above the elbow. There's a lovely little delicate poof and this gorgeous ruffle. There's like no ruffle on the neckline. I decided to keep it ruffle less for this one. I just wanted it to be simple, less costumey, more like everyday garment is what I was going for with this. Although I did have a lot of fun eventually with this ruffle. And everything is, all the seaming is like rolled and encased. I rolled all the hems. Love this fabric, except it frays like nobody's business. So I've like fully encased all the edges so that nothing will come apart, because I am fully intending to wear this beauty for a lot more than just costuming. You may have already seen her. I have put this lovely gal on and modeled her for Red Threaded's hashtag Fall for Costume. If you're unfamiliar, it is the annual, it's like Inktober, but for costumers. So there's a daily prompt, and some people try and get every single day, and some people just pop in and out when they can. And that's what I've been doing, just popping in and out, because I'm not hardcore costumer yet. I'm still getting into it. So I've already worn it, and I love it. It's so comfortable. I could see this beauty becoming like a regular wardrobe staple, especially since pajamas are the new fashion. Although, correct me if I'm wrong, people were wearing pajamas. Was that last year or 2 years ago? Like the full-on, like satin or flannel sets, like the button-ups, collars. They were wearing those as fashion. Were they not, like a year or 2 years ago, with like heels and dressed it up? Okay, there's something else I want to catch you up on, because some things have gone down in the studio that I haven't recorded. But before we move on to the next step, we have an important something that needs to be done. The shift is done. And actually, I can erase it too, because it is totally done. Oh, that feels good. Okay, now technically, there's another thing I could have crossed off, but it's not quite done yet, and I'll explain in a minute. Okay, so what I did over the last couple of days is a skirt. I really like how this came out. It's beautiful. I don't think it's going to pick up the right color on camera. It's a gorgeous, like, burnt orange. It's not quite as vibrant as what I'm seeing on screen right now. But this was a curtain panel, which so many of my projects started life as. This one was donated to me. So there's a gorgeous pattern on this curtain panel. All this like stitching, threading, and it gives it like a texture. So it's really, really pretty. What I've done for this, I made it as a rectangle skirt. So I will show you right here. This is the pattern that I used as my jumping off point. Now, of course, I didn't stick to it completely. And what I mean by that is, so I have a waistband measurement. I didn't actually use that because being curtain panels, these had these big hems where the curtain rod would go. So I just cut that off and then reattached it. So that right there, my waistband is this. So it doesn't match the measurements exactly. And also this one, okay, so the way this skirt works is the waistband is 1 inch longer than your waist measurement. But, as you can see, this is elasticated. This is for a skirt with a zipper. I didn't want a skirt with a zipper. My waist does not like traditional waistbands. I had a hysterectomy a little over 5 years ago and have not been able to wear a traditional waistband since. It's all drawstring and elastication for this girl. So what I ended up doing is I just took the whole length of curtain panel. I don't know how much that was, but I basically measured it around my hips, and because I had to make sure that it would fit over my hips and get up to my waist. And then the elastic I measured to be my waist. I hope that makes sense. And then the skirt was just a big long rectangle. I ended up fiddling around with the length, and then this length, that was just an estimate. What I ended up doing is just taking basically the whole panel, and I measured how long I wanted it to be. I was hoping that it would be a little bit shorter than the ruffle, so that you could see the ruffle, but I think it's going to be like right at ruffle or a little bit below. That's okay though. So I measured how long I wanted from the waist down, and then I just cut that chunk from like the whole big, so the curtain panel would have been like that, and I just cut what I needed. It wasn't necessarily 111, it was whatever the curtain length was. And then again, this is awful fabric. It's polyester, which I don't love, but it was free. So I'm going to use it, keep it out of the landfill as long as possible. But it shreds. It doesn't just fray, this thing shreds. When I was cutting the curtain rod pocket things off, I ended up with so many little orange threads all over my clothes. It was kind of ridiculous, and I was picking them off all night. So of course, with this one, I also encased every single raw edge so that it will not fray. This is a machine washable fabric. I have washed it in the machine before, and it washed and dried nicely. So I plan on doing that some more. But being that it's polyester, I think this is going to probably be more of a costume piece than a clothing piece. Although being a skirt, I don't have to worry too much about it being breathable. If it gets hot, I just stand over the vent. Anyway, so this one was kind of interesting, I guess. I finagled the waistband and sewed it on the rectangle of fabric in one big straight line. And the pleats, I wasn't too concerned about getting the pleats. You know, they look good, but they're not necessarily perfectly evenly spaced, and I don't care. It looks good. It's got that nice fall and drape, and it's really pretty. So then when it came to, there's one seam, and just like everything else, fully encased. And there you can see there's still some little bits that came out from when I had cut it. It just like was shredding and falling apart. I had to work on this quick because it was falling apart as I was manipulating it. I used the pre-existing hem. So this is the like natural side of the curtain as my bottom hem. And then when I came up to the waistband, because I already had the open channel for the elastic, what I ended up doing is I sewed these two sides together, and then on the machine I sewed this side. This side? Yes, that's the one I hit. So, okay, so I sewed the outside by machine as well, and then just kind of like, let's see if I can illustrate. I probably should have filmed all this, but I got in the zone and I totally forgot about it. Okay, so with the two sides like together like that, I pulled the top away and the bottom away to sandwich the middle, and then sewed up just the one side so that these two became one full piece with mouths already there. And then I put the elastic through the waistband and hand sewed that little bit shut. Now what I'm hoping to do is pockets. Although I've been putting this off for a little bit because this fabric is not fun. As mentioned, it shreds. It's a mess. So I'm a little hesitant. Okay, so for this costume, I'm going to wear a apron. There's going to be an apron over the skirt. So I don't want like outside pockets. I don't just want to put like the square of fabric. Okay, pretend this box is a square of fabric. I don't want to just like put the square of fabric, sew around the sides, and then, you know, there's your pocket. Because I'm going to have the apron over the front. So those would be weird pockets to put on the side, and to put them on the front, they'd end up being covered by the apron anyway, so I don't know that I would use them. They wouldn't be very, like, convenient. All this to say, I kind of want to put side pockets in, even though I don't have side seams to work with, because this seam is the back seam, and it's staying seamed. I am not opening that thing up again. So I was thinking of doing just like a little slit, just like cut a little in the fabric and then sew a pocket in. I just don't know how to do that and keep everything encased so it doesn't shred. So I'm kind of like, do I forgo pockets and just leave the skirt as it is because it's done? Or do I try and put pockets in? Pockets would be very appropriate for a Hobbit costume. It's a very practical necessity. And Hobbits are very practical beings. I don't know, but if I end up deciding to go with a pocket, I'm going to be a little cheeky with it. This is the pattern. So these are the pockets that I've already cut out. There's two of them. Two-sided. And in case you can't tell what's on the pattern, beavers. So I would put beavers in my pocket. I'm not going to tell you to get your mind out of the gutter because mine is totally there. That's why I'm laughing. So that's my conundrum right now. Do I put pockets in or do I leave it? I don't know. And then, I have another conundrum. So originally, I was thinking, so I got a bunch of fabric. One of the pieces is this, which when I first saw it, I was like, oh, it was like kombucha lady. I was like, and then, it's grown on me. I do really like this fabric, and once again, I don't think it's coming up well with my studio lighting on camera. Take my word for it, this is beautiful fabric. And it's a canvas. I think it's a cotton canvas. It feels like it. It doesn't feel plasticky and polyestery, but then I'm not an expert at fabric, so I'm not 100% sure. And what I think is that, well, what I thought is that I would use this to make the vest to go over this with the skirt. And as you can see, they don't really match. But I am getting like autumny vibes from both, and they're eclectic enough that I think I could make it work. I think me as a Hobbit would rock an outfit like that. Unfortunately, I was going through my stash trying to figure out what I wanted to do for the apron, and I found not one but two gorgeous fabrics. The first being autumn leaves, which, can we just, yeah, stunning. That just, My matchy-matchy 80s heart is just, if you were alive in the 80s, you know how everything had to be, like, your socks and your scrunchie and your everything matched. Your earrings and your jewelry and, you know, yeah. So that, yeah. So, I like that option for that reason. But then, I also found that fabric, which by itself is, I mean, it's kind of pretty. I've been holding on to it, but it's not anything that I've wanted to use in anything else. Like I've done fabric paintings and stuff, but this isn't quite the background. The pattern's just a little like an awkward size. It's not quite big, not quite small. So it hasn't fit for that. But for a Hobbit. And it looks so good with that orange. But then the problem becomes, that's not a look. That's just, if I pick a fabric for the apron that matches the skirt beautifully, then my vest fabric stands out that much more. And I don't necessarily want to match. I don't necessarily want to look like a Hobbit from the 80s and have everything like, you know, matchy, matchy, matchy. But I want it to not stand out and not, I want it to look like it belongs together. The aprons look like they belong with the skirt. And the vest looks like it belongs with the skirt. But altogether it doesn't. I don't know. And then I thought maybe I could patchwork an apron. But again, I have to see if I have fabric that matches-ish the vest. Ugh. So many problems. And then I'm going to be popping back to my other Hobbit variation to work on the bottom, because I have another curtain panel that I want to do something to. I don't know what's easier. On the one hand, I like this, bouncing back and forth and having two projects on the go at the same time, because when I was working on the white stuff, I had my machine threaded with white thread, and I just ran all those through. And then working on the skirt and the other bottom and the other Hobbit variation vest is going to be partially out of this as well. And for that, I found like the perfect orange thread. So I like the idea of getting all that done while the orange thread is in the machine, so I don't have to keep rethreading. But at the same time, there's something to be said about just working on the whole piece and getting it done. Because I only have one mannequin. Lady Jane can only rock one outfit at a time. So as I'm putting pieces together, that's a little tricky, switching back and forth. I have done like nothing today, besides confuse and frustrate myself more than I needed to. And more than I realized I would. Daughter found a new game like Sailor Moon Drops, which is, I guess, like Candy Crush. I never played Candy Crush, but I loved Sailor Moon Drops. I miss that game. Anyway, my daughter found a game like that that's Frozen themed. So you know what? I think I'm going to go and do that. Play that with her until bedtime. Well, her bedtime. And I think I'm just going to sleep on all these decisions. I'll maybe try working on some more tomorrow. Until tomorrow. And I'm back. And it's actually the day after tomorrow. So I slept on it. And I turned to the costuming community, who, as a collective whole, is just wow. It's a community that is filled with some of the most encouraging and supportive people. I put my dilemma of the pockets on Instagram and was floored that I got some responses back with advice and suggestions and encouragement and like, way to go, what you're doing so far looks awesome. It was the external validation that, we're all told that we shouldn't need, but I totally did. And it was gratifying. So anyway, what came out of that is the pockets for the skirt, which, let's go have a look. So what I ended up doing is, here we go, a patch pocket. And as I mentioned before, I didn't want like the little square patch pocket. I ended up deciding against cutting into the skirt, as you can clearly see, because shredding, didn't want to get into that. I know I've mentioned that like 5,962 times in this vlog so far. I ended up going for a patch pocket, and I googled patch pocket, and this is the shape that I ended up finding. It's this kind of like an L shape, and I love it. I didn't even know that was a thing. So what I ended up doing is I sewed the top of the pocket, and I sort of followed the gathers that were already in the waistline. Okay, and then on this side, I sewed the side and around the bottom. Instead of like flattening it, I kind of poofed this side over a little bit. That's hard to explain. But I didn't sew the pocket tight to the skirt because I wanted it to still have a flow. And as you can see, if this sleeve will stay out of the way for a second, it's still got that nice drape, and it's still like the pleats and the folds and stuff are still there. So I'm really, really happy with how that turned out. And big enough pockets. I can fit my hands. I can fit... Okay, you couldn't see that. Take my word for it. I can fit you in there. I can fit the phone. I can fit snacks. I can fit whatever I need to. And I've got the one here and another one here. So it kind of looks, and see, you can still see the nice drape, nice fall. I love the lining fabric. Okay, so I know I mentioned that I was going to put beavers in the pocket, but I didn't have enough to reshape the pocket to the patch that I went with. And I think I'm going to save the beavers for the other bottoms, which I know I'm being a little bit vague about, but that's because I don't know. I guess I kind of want to keep you in suspense a little bit so that you have a reason to continue watching. Storytelling, my friends. It's storytelling. Anyway, so I'm going to save the beaver pockets for something else. So what I ended up doing for this one, check it out. It's like a bits and bites kind of checks party mix sort of dealy inside the pocket. Because I figure if a Hobbit is going to have anything in their pocket, it's going to be snacks. So this way, even when I'm not wearing the skirt, I've still got snacks in the pocket. Always snacks in the pocket. And actually, as a mom, I usually do have snacks in my pocket. So I thought that was a nice touch. There we are. So far. Which means I can cross out the skirt and even erase it. Okay, and I am going to call it quits at this point in the vlog because I think we're already like 4 hours long. Okay, not quite, but you know what I mean. This one has become a little bit ramblier than I expected. So I'm going to wrap this up and get it edited and get it out there. And then the next time we get together, the plan is to start working on bottoms for Hobbit costume variation, the other one. I can't remember if this one is 1 or 2. Anyway, I'll be working on the other bottoms next time. And hopefully figuring out what I'm doing for the vest-like things on the top. That's the plan. I hope you'll join me for that. I hope you enjoyed what we've done. Thanks for hanging out with me, lovelies. I hope you enjoy my rambles. And I hope you enjoy what I'm putting together. Now that I'm putting it out there, I'm kind of committing to finishing this and the other one. I will see you in the next vlog. I hope you're also enjoying my Wreck This Journal videos. If you haven't seen those, then check them out. I have a whole playlist. It's been a slice. I'll see you in the next one. Stay fabulous. Stay safe. Know you're loved. Bye.